Good morning. I call the March 26th, 2026 University Governance and Operations Committee meeting of the Arizona Board of Regents to order. Suzanne, would you please confirm that we have a quorum?
Yes, we consider that we have.
Thank you, ma'am. Today, the committee will convene an executive session to discuss the executive session items listed on the agenda. Live stream of the public meeting is available to the public on youtube.com at the ABOR Live link. At approximately 11:05-ish, the committee will reconvene in public session to hear the items listed on the agenda. I move to enter into executive session for the items listed on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. The committee will now convene in executive session. Thank you very much, ma'am. I want to welcome everybody to attending today's meeting. Just as a side note, the meeting of the University Governance and Operations Committee was called to order earlier this morning convened in executive session. Before we get to our scheduled agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Chair Goodyear because he would like to say a few words. Sir.
Yeah, so I think most of the people in this room know Julie Zering, and she has been with ASU for 26 years and has been helping coordinate the meetings that we have here with regularity for the last 7 years. And it actually takes a lot of work to put one of these meetings on. I mean, there are an awful lot of moving parts. And for 7 years now, Julie has just done a marvelous job. She's always invincibly cheerful. She takes such good care of us. She is a professional in every sense of the word. And we want to just say thank you for all you've done. Congratulations on the retirement. Know that you will be sorely missed, but we are really grateful for all that you have done. You have made these meetings very manageable, and you're just always so helpful anytime we need something. And people don't see all the work that goes on behind the scenes. Julie is a really good example of that, and we're going to miss you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. As a quick overview for today's agenda, we will start by reviewing the setting of the 2026 and 2027 academic fees for Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, and the University of Arizona. Following that, we will hear from ASU regarding the sale of a formal residence hall in Lake Havasu City to the Lake Havasu City Unified School District. And lastly, the committee will hear from the board office regarding a series of proposed revisions to ABOR policies listed on the agenda. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. Before we have folks declare any conflicts they may have on items 3.1 through 3.6, I'm going to invite Regent Stein to make a comment.
Sure. One of the matters on the agenda involves the PSPRS. My wife sits on the PSPRS board. At a previous meeting, out of an abundance of caution and transparency, I recused. It was not necessary to. She has a remote interest, and that doesn't require a recusal. I've made the decision not to recuse on the PSPRS issue this year and going forward.
We support that decision.
Thank you.
Okay. I move that the committee forward to the board for its approval items 3.1 through 3.6 as listed on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, moving on to item 1.1, which is the review and forwarding to the board for approval the setting of the academic fees I referenced earlier. Our first item is a setting of the fees for ASU, NAU, and the U of A, which I just said. Sorry for repeating myself. We'll hear from ASU first, followed by NAU, and then the U of A to provide a brief overview of these fees. If I could please turn it over to Dr. Crow.
Thank you, Chair Pacheco. I'm going to preface our comments relative to our specific proposal because there are several new regents, and this has been a long-standing 15-year process for ASU as we have evolved our tuition and fee proposal process. Here's what we have done. We took a university which was not successful in graduating very many of its students, not successful in its freshman retention rate, not successful in attracting enough Arizonans to the institution, not successful, therefore, in producing college graduates at the level that we should for Arizona, because we had in the past a low tuition, low financial aid model. We changed over many years with the Regent's approval, step by step by step, into a modest tuition and fee, high financial aid model, in which we promised in that step of our process to make certain that affordability and access to the institution would achieve record levels. I'm going to show in just a second how we have done that, but then I'm also going to say that we have then, as a second part of this process, moved into an environment where we have said that we would keep our tuition and fee increases low and modest, while at the same time maintaining affordability and access. So this is the number one goal framing of Arizona State University, is to demonstrate leadership in enabling academic excellence with accessibility at scale. And what this means then is academic excellence means, well, we'd like to be able to graduate the students. When I came here, the four-year graduation rate was 28%. The four-year graduation rate in the 1980s was 12%. The four-year graduation rate in the 1970s was under 10%. No financial aid, no revenue, no model. In fact, just to shock all of you, when I got here, it was the financial policy of the university to be not unhappy about dropouts at the middle of the first semester of the freshman year, because we got a full allocation of the then 22-to-1 allocation from the state, which we didn't have to pay back. We got a full year allocation. And if they dropped out in the numbers that they dropped out in the first semester, well, hallelujah, we had money with no expenses. I'm not kidding. We changed everything. So let's just look at how we did that. So under that overall goal, these are the specific goals. I'd like the regents to just refresh their memories here with number one: maintain the fundamental principle of accessibility to all students qualified to study at a research university. We're not running a community college. We're not running a four-year liberal arts college. We're running a research university. Accessibility to all. That means if you're qualified, you're admitted. That means if you don't have money, we're going to find a way for you to get through. Second, maintain university accessibility to match socioeconomic diversity with undifferentiated outcomes for success. You got to make that work. And I'm not going to go through all of the other goals, because they have to do with numeric achievements that are not achieved around the country. 90% freshman retention, we're just a step away from that. 85% multi-year graduation rate, so forth and so on. So this shows how we've done relative to Arizonans coming. So we've increased by over 20,000 students the number of students coming from Arizona. So therefore, accessibility to Arizonans is at record levels. So the proof is in the pudding relative to accessibility. People can come. It also turns out that if you look at how we're doing just overall, we're doing pretty well against the norm. This is how we're doing in terms of our role. So our role in Arizona is to take on the big number of students. That's our role. That's what we've done. That's what we're continuing to do. This statement here: highest enrollment reaches its highest level ever. Obviously, accessibility is a function of enrollment. Graduation is a function of the operation of the institution, the affordability of the institution, which we weren't before. In addition to our students that are coming, we do have 1.2 million learners who are learning through our other activities. So we've increased accessibility to the institution, including what we call the Universal Pathways program, the second one there. That's a way in which you can have access to content at essentially no cost, from which you can find a way to earn your way into the university. So we've taken every step imaginable to add to the pathways for accessibility. If you look at earned admission, those are people not qualified for admission either because they didn't finish high school, or they didn't take the right courses in high school, or they didn't have the grade point in high school. Well, we have admitted thousands of these students. This shows you how we have expanded, as have the other universities. This is just our role. Our role in the big city is to take on large numbers of students. So we're now taking 10% of the graduating senior class of the state of Arizona to ASU. 10%, and accelerating. This is our change in first-year retention rate by different categories. Transfer students, of which we have thousands. Blue, first-year students, all first-year students. Lots of our out-of-state students leave after 1 year to go back to their home state for lots of different reasons. This is our change in graduation rate. So affordability is not just can you afford to go to the school, can you get out of the school? Can you actually graduate? So we have doubled the amount of money that we're spending on financial aid from our own resources. These are not other people's resources. This is not Pell Grants. This is not private. This is us. This is a really important chart. Incomes at the far left, 20,000 and less for a family. If you go all the way up to 80,000, the red line is our mandatory tuition and fees. Our financial aid packages are at or above that for all of these income groups. We will continue that. No matter what our fee structure is, no matter what we advance as what it takes to attend the university, this will be maintained. Orange, by the way, is us. Now, this slide is unbelievably important. So the maroon, in fact, I'll just walk up here and just make a point here. So in the fall of 2002, when I took this job, we had about 1,000 students from families under 20,000, slightly more than 1,000 for under 40,000, and about 1,500 from families under 60,000. Gold is where we are now. The institution is affordable, is designed to be affordable, is unbelievably affordable. How do I know that? We have several times the number of students from family incomes under $60,000 a year than we ever had before. Now, what does that mean when you're looking at the institution going forward? By the way, we have made it, we are hell-bent on getting kids from community colleges to transfer to ASU. We used to have 7,000 in 2012, not 2002. Now we have more than 16,000, more than 8,000 additional transfer students attending the institution. This is how we're doing on Pell Grant, that's blue. So we're now the largest number of Pell Grant recipients of any single university in the entire country. And then first generation, again, back to affordability, 35,000. First generation families generally have lower incomes than families that are than students that are coming from families that have been to college. You can look at how we're doing and how we're moving forward. There'll be no change in this. This will continue to accelerate. So our tuition and fee proposal is 1, for all tuitions within policy. 2, for fees. It's important to make an important distinction here. So almost all the fees except for one, in fact, all of them except for one, are our normal advancement of fees associated with largely graduate degrees, some new, some others. The policy of the board for more than 10 years relative to graduate programs has been market. What is the market? Set the fees and the tuition at the level of the market. We set at below the level of the market, but nonetheless, that's what this is representative of. Someone had a question about our medical school. We also have an unusual way in which, and the provost can comment on this, we have an unusual way in our institutional design, all 3 universities. We have tuition, which is one number, and fees, which is another number. This is the way we run the professional schools, the business school, the medical school, and so forth. What I can guarantee you is that, for all of our incoming medical school class, we have contributions to pay all of their tuition. And so because the stated tuition is X, Y, or Z, that's not where we end up. We end up being focused on affordability and accessibility. There is one fee, which we've spoken with Regent Fisher and other student leaders about, and it's what we call our advanced technology fee. It is unbelievably important. I wouldn't have it on the table unless it was critical to where we're going. We are living at a moment where our connection to all technological assets that influence learning outcomes is such that the $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $80 million a year additional expenses are going beyond our financial model, and we need this fee to be able to help us to be able to provide world-class technological assets to enhance learning for all of our students. And that's not just AI, it's not an AI fee, it's an advanced technology fee for all things related to learning. So our tuition proposal and our fee proposal is completely consistent with our 15-year transformation. And our 15-year transformation is about, just going back to that original goal, if I can do that, maybe I can't do that. Can I go back to the second slide? Maintain the fundamental principle of accessibility to all students qualified to study at a research university. We're doing that in very significant ways. And this fee proposal, this fee structure is going to help us to do that. We think that the advanced technology fee will bump up our graduation rate dramatically. It will bump up our freshman retention rate dramatically. Now, out there in the world, make no mistake, everyone is concerned about the cost of everything. You know, we're advancing at below inflation. We're advancing with enhanced efficiency. I could show you another slide that, you know, our cost to produce a degree among all the major research universities in the country is among the bottom 2. That's how efficient we are. That efficiency is continuing. These technology fees will help us to do that even more with enhanced outcomes at the same time. So that's our proposal, Madam Chair. Anything, Provost Gonzalez, you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it well. We have a high proportion of the fees that we're requesting this time happen to be in some of our new colleges, and many of them are health related. So really, which are costly degrees, so they're well justified.
I'll just add that we have 50 new degree programs online that we didn't have a year ago. I don't know how many total new degree programs within the university, new schools, new initiatives, but we have multiple new schools, a new medical school, a new school for conservation futures, a new school for technology and public health, all since the last time the Regents considered tuition and fees. So we're not a static creature, and we have to figure out how to set up the fee structures for those things, to expand these new programs, advance these new degree programs. We have new degrees in AI, new degrees in the business school. We have over 800 degree programs that we're advancing, and these fee structures are intended to, again, in the concept of affordability, as I've suggested, make these programs workable.
Thank you, Dr. Crow. Dr. Olson, do you have anything to add? We are talking numbers and everything.
There are numbers, if the board wants them, will be.
So,
And I have,
one of the things
courtesy of our unlimited copying machine, that's down on the 4th floor. If anyone would like a copy of my slides, I'd be happy to give them.
Well, and Dr. Crow, we really appreciate your focus on affordability and ensuring that Arizona students have all of the opportunities that ASU affords
Yes.
them. And so thank you for that, very much so. And now I will invite NAU to give us their presentation.
Thank you, Chair Pacheco, members of the committee. The summary that you have in your board materials shows NAU's proposal, and I want to take one step back and give context to that proposal. The fees that you see there, when you combined with the tuition that we had announced in December, really show that NAU's proposal, as was mentioned, really reflects a very competitive and recognition of affordability and the need for access. So when you take a look at the tuition, the mandatory fees, and the academic fees, the most that an Arizona undergrad, resident undergrad would pay is approximately 2.4% increase year to year. And that is if you are in a business or are actually engineering and nursing, the tier 3 college fees. The other two college fees, tier 1 and tier 2, would be 1.6% and 1.8% increase. So that is less than the inflation rate. It's less than the higher education price index, the HEPI, and those two are 2.6 and 3.6% respectively. When we think about the individual fees themselves, the new fee that we are proposing for campus investment really takes a look at the need to invest in the physical plant and the fact that we have a deferred maintenance, as we've talked about and we'll talk about again this afternoon, the need to continually make that investment, whether it's in buildings themselves or in the roadways, the parking, the sidewalks, the pedways that are not even in that number that you think of for deferred maintenance, because the deferred maintenance number that you see is only reflective of buildings themselves. And the fact that we and Flagstaff have a, harsher climate in terms of freeze thaw, that has a larger impact in terms of concrete and asphalt. So that is reflective of the proposed campus investment fee that we are moving forward with. The other fee, in terms of an increase for the student health and wellness fee, that fee has not been adjusted since 2012. We're seeing a much higher usage, higher costs in terms of mental health counseling, the medical services that are provided. So this adjustment may look large, but it has not been adjusted since 2012. And that's just a catch up in terms of over a decade of inflation since the 2012. The adjustments, as I've mentioned, in terms of the college fees are 10%, 10%, and 15%, reflective of the higher cost engineering and nursing programs in that Tier 3 increase, which reflect the higher costs from those programs. Let me just stop there, see if there's any questions for any use proposal.
Do we have any questions? And so I would like to extend this committee's gratitude to you and the broader executive team to be very diligent at keeping fees as low as possible to ensure that we have access and accessibility for all Arizona students. So thank you for that very much.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions? Thank you, sir. I'd like now to call the U of A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully this will go quickly. We have one fee before the board today. This is a fee for our new MS in midwifery. It's a program that is scheduled to launch this fall. The proposed program fee of $2,000 per semester will support the costs associated with required clinical placements and simulation-based learning and experiences. These costs include the purchase, maintenance, and use of simulation equipment and university simulation resources, as well as the identification, evaluation, and development of qualified clinical preceptors and clinical sites. This new midwifery degree program will help expand maternal and fetal health care across the state of Arizona.
Are there any comments for Mr. Arnold? I won't ask you the origin of midwifery,
Thank you.
and we'll.
No, I'm
Right,
guess
exactly.
that Patty
Yeah.
probably knows the answer to that question.
Okay. So, fellow committee members, this is an action item. So I will move that the committee forward to the board for approval ASU's, NAU's, and the U of A's request to set 2026-2027 academic fees as presented in the executive summary with the supporting documentation. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
As do I. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item. Next is a request for sale of a former residence hall in Lake Havasu City to the Lake Havasu Unified School District, which includes a waiver of ABOR policy 7-201, requiring certain real property to be sold at public auction and for no less than the lowest appraised value. And presenting this morning is Dr. Olson.
Good morning. So, as the chair indicated, this is a real estate transaction that springs out of the location that we had in Lake Havasu City for about 12 years. The intention was to bring access to ASU programs directly to Lake Havasu residents. We were using a set of buildings that were provided to us by the school district. We later acquired a hotel that was adjacent and converted it for use as a residence hall and operated that complex for, as I said, about 12 or 13 years. Unfortunately, it never reached the enrollment levels that were necessary. We were subsidizing the operations on an annual basis more significantly than we thought we could justify. And so in 2024, we discontinued operations there. The school district approached us with interest in the former residence hall that we had purchased. And so we engaged in conversation with them and came to agreement potentially, with your approval, of a sale price of $1.1 million. We are asking for a waiver of the normal public auction requirement. We don't usually sell properties by public auction, but have to receive your authority to waive an auction, as well as to sell slightly below the lower appraised value of the facility, which is $1.27 million. $1.1 million is the price that we're recommending, in recognition of in excess of $3 million of support for their operation during the time that we operated in Lake Havasu City, and that would further educational purposes, and that the school district plans to use it to house new hire public school teachers until they're able to find local housing for a longer duration. So we think this is a good outcome. We recommend it to you, and if there are any questions, we'll be happy to address them.
Any questions or comments? This is, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, sir.
Just one comment. I would just say that from the very beginning, this endeavor was done for the benefit of Western Arizona, Northwestern Arizona, and a benefit to the community. And what I like about this is, in closing out the time that ASU has had at Lake Havasu, it benefits the community in another way with regard to the public school system. So this, I think, is appropriate for the Board of Regents and for Arizona State University, is this addressing community needs. So I laud this and will vote in favor of it.
Wonderful, thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? This is an action item. So I move the committee forward to the board for approval ASU's request for authorization to sell the former residence hall in Lake Havasu City, which includes a waiver of ABOR policy 7-201, requiring certain real property to be sold at public auction and for no less than the lowest appraised value. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Now, this is now item 2.1. Our last, and this is our last item, is the first reading of recommended changes to several more areas of ABOR policy. They are described at length in the executive summary. And there are 17 of them, so I'm not going to read them all off with the permission of this committee. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm now going to turn it over to Andrew and Ashley, so you can briefly review what the policies are, and then we will move to vote on it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, indeed, 17 new policies and more on the way for future meetings. I'm going to let Ashley do most of the talking today, but I did actually want to introduce Ashley to you all. I don't know that many of the regents have met her. And I'm really doing this with the grace of the legal team, because she works for Jenny's team. Her title is Coordinator for Legal and Policy. But when I asked Sam Blevins, is anything you do like a paralegal? Sam's answer was, she is so much more than a paralegal. So Ashley is the keeper of the policies. Literally, if we want a policy, handle a policy, change the policy, this is the person we go to. And she's an active member of our policy review team. So I just wanted to tee that up and have you meet someone who behind the scenes does a lot for all the policies that you were in charge of. So Ashley, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. Testing. Good morning, everybody. So board staff review policies on a regular basis to ensure that they are current. And in addition to our regular review, we've been working with the universities at the Regent's request to update several policies. The proposed policy revisions in today's materials are a result of both of those processes. And the changes streamline several of the policies and modernize processes to match current practice. So if approved for forwarding to the board, these policies will go to first reading at the April board meeting and to second reading at the subsequent meeting in June. All of the changes are outlined in your meeting materials. Many of these are technical updates, such as adding designee language, the addition of university staff, changing male gendered pronouns to neutral pronouns, and certain changes, other changes may be of particular interest. For example, we have 109 and 116, which are litigation policies. Current policy allows the universities to initiate and settle litigation, but excludes the board office from being able to initiate and settle litigation. The proposed revisions allow the board office to initiate and settle litigation in the same amounts as the universities. For 4322, state-supported financial aid programs, we did some research and found that the Arizona Teachers Incentive Program, which is a loan forgiveness program for teachers of the deaf and blind, is still an active program. So it remains in budget documents and will remain in policy. And then surcharge fee is defined as just a fee to avoid confusion and reflect statutory language. And then we get to our associated students policies. There's a statute, 151621, which uses the term associated student organizations. So we propose to change the policy's current language from associated students and associated student bodies to associated student organizations to match statutory language. And that just is what the elected student government is. We're in consultation with the student regents and student governments on these and other proposed changes to these two policies. And just for clarification, the organizations that these policies apply to have not changed. And the policies apply to student government only and not to clubs or other student organizations. Then one change that we may be making prior to the April board meeting, in addition to what you see in the materials, is to add a definition to the policy that clarifies that the associated student organizations means the elected student governments of the universities. And then finally, we have Chapter 7 policies where the thresholds have been raised to account for inflation, for current and near future inflation and for current market conditions. And we're happy to take any other questions.
Thank you for your diligence in coordinating all of that.
You're welcome.
Lots of details to keep track of. Are there any questions or comments regarding the 17 policies that are being updated? This is an item that we need to take a vote on. And so I move that the committee forward to the board for first reading the proposed revision to the 17 policies that I just referenced that are described in the executive summary and have supporting documentation. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And then it is my very great pleasure to conclude the University Governance and Operations Committee 11 minutes early. Thank you very much for participating, and we are adjourned.